Folks, hello and welcome to the Random Party Generator. I am Eric Tenkar, one of your hosts. With me, stage right, my left-ish, I don't know how this works, on the interwebs, Rob Conley, Mr. Bat in the Attic.
Hey, folks.
Uh, below us is Chubby Funster, aka Greg.
Hey,
Somewhere on a shitter in the middle of nowhere is Joe the lawyer, who will should be making an appearance, but um, is he's a lawyer, so if you want promptness, on time, coordination, you're looking in the wrong place. So, at the moment, this is your panel.
Well, I
What?
got something special to start the evening off. If you could expand my screen.
All right, folks, I don't. Rob wouldn't tell me what the hell's going on.
parents, please cover the eyes of your children at this time.
We
Okay,
don't.
this should be
We
a
don't know.
familiar scene for everybody.
Wow, wow.
Okay.
So this is the new 50th. Read it off by WizKids. It's the Icon to the Realm 50th anniversary classic Red Dragon. I think it's $30, and I couldn't resist passing it up.
Okay. Fair enough.
But this is my hand for reference to show how big it is, and these are two miniatures. I haven't gotten any of the collectible box set that they actually have the miniatures of the figures on the basic D&D cover,
So
but
this
they're random draws. So
this would be a juvenile dragon or an adolescent dragon, I guess, based upon the size. Just saying. I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
compared to the figures, you
I don't
know,
know.
it's
Well, I can look up the monster manual in a minute here, but
Yeah, I think that's only like a large or maybe huge to use 3E.
fine. Oh,
Plus, after that they started using those categories after third.
go
Yeah,
get
but
into
yeah,
it.
yeah,
yeah,
but
I'll point the camera toward me and then we can hold it up. But right here. Yep. So this is the miniature, and this is the
Okay.
figure, a regular standard figure, the
yeah,
side comparison. And for those you don't know, a while ago I bought what I call Book Nook that you can shelve on Witcher books.
All right. So Joe Joe is at a family shitter. I mean, family dinner. So, hold on. Hold on. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it even has an LED.
All right. That's very nice. Very nice.
So I had this for a while. So
All right.
anyway, I know it's a little corny, but I thought you guys might would appreciate that. Oh,
No,
and
no, no. Definitely.
here's the box that it comes in.
You see now, I have no room for I have no room for boxes. Yes, it's a beautiful cover, man, and it's the right red. I gotta say.
yeah, and the size is proportional to the guys.
Yeah,
as it is
yeah.
as it is in the image.
Well, I'll look up in the monster manual right now. I have it on PDF.
I've always felt for a while that the size of a dragon that they have gotten up to would be they're so large it would be impossible for anyone to reasonably, even if you had the greatest skill level in the world, kill it. Because I mean it'd be like if like taking on a house. I mean, like, it's so huge it would just crush you. That size is much more reasonable as a conceivable enemy, you know
You
Yeah,
got a good point there.
that's one that you could well subdue in AD&D terms.
Yeah, I mean, if it's bigger than a blue whale, it's gonna be hard for you to kill with a sword. You know,
Oh, gee.
yeah.
Okay, so according to this, a red dragon is 48 feet long.
Yeah, but
So,
what?
so if we count this guy as 6 foot, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a little bit of change. So this dragon probably 30 feet. From nose to tip of the tail, it's 35 feet long. And that's your science lessons for the day, folks.
Yes, you might be tested on this later in your TSR handbooks. Before you can be a proper DM, you must be able to complete the following rules test. Oh my god! So, just that Rob did more show prep than the rest of the show combined. By the way, just so folks.
Yeah.
We're all DM. This should be second nature for us to put on multimedia presentations.
Oh yeah, we just roll with it, man. We just roll with it. I do the funny voices, but well, I mean, there's a couple of things that are going on in the industry. Now, one is that apparently I'm seeing articles all over the place calling the new D&D rules D&D 5.5, but I can't find anywhere where WotC calls the rules 5.5. Is it just that the community has decided these are the 5.5 rules since they are not 100% compatible with the 2014 rules, or did WotC actually state that they're new rules?
Well, I say they're 100% compatible. I mean, okay, so you guys are maybe a little familiar with my Majestic Fantasy rules, okay? And I made them compatible with Swords and Wizardry. But the simple fact of the matter is, when it comes to the elves that I made, and it comes to the paladin, you know, they have more mechanical abilities. I mean, they got a lot of stuff to them compared to even the fighters and stuff. The classes aren't balanced at all. So the from what I've seen of D&D 2024, it it's the same overall structure as D&D 5e.
Okay.
You know, it's got 20 levels, and you know, mini classes every 4 levels you get to add +2 to the ability and the feat. That hasn't changed, but they have they rework some feat. They have a different list of feat. The class ability has been switched around. So at 19th level, you get an epic boom. So in effect, my opinion, it's Jeremy Crawford's house rules for D&D 5e, and
Okay.
only the fact that he gets to put the Wizards of the Coast stamp on it makes it official. But
All right.
so, but from a design standpoint, it is different from the baseline D&D 5e, in my opinion, as my uh, particular. I 2 years ago, I got inspired and wrote up my own take on the D&D 5e classes, and I rearranged some things, added some abilities, and but mostly focused on subclass. But my package is different than the core package, and his package is different from the core package as well. So does it make it 5.5? Well, yes and no. I mean, if maybe a monk under 2024 rule had better options, in your opinion, than it did under the 2014 rules. But can they use the same basic dice roll? It's the core system with the action, bonus action stuff. It's mostly the same. And in some ways, you can consider the changes to the 2024 core rules as errata to the 2014 rules.
I think the way that WotC conceives of things is really driven by Magic the Gathering more than anybody is willing to. But D&D is like in the sidecar of the Magic the Gathering motorcycle, and the main way they make money with Magic the Gathering is that they continue to release compatible stuff that's better than what's already out there. So people are pressured to buy the new stuff because it's better.
Right.
And then they eventually, if you wanted to go and play with a deck of 4th edition Magic the Gathering cards today, you would get stomped into the ground because your cards would suck compared to what's there today. This is how they think.
Well, I wouldn't say the cards suck. It's just that they got combos, different combos, so people take advantage of those combos in the new deck that the old decks didn't really account for. So it's like an arms race with Magic the Gathering.
What's an arms race that they're using against you? That's my point. The pressure. That's why eventually I quit playing Magic the Gathering, because they keep releasing stuff so that you have to either pay to keep going along, or you're going to lose in matchups against people unless you have the newer cards. And I think that they think that the same logic will work with D&D. It won't, because you can just say, this is what we're going to play, and it's not a competitive game in the way that Magic the Gathering is. It's a cooperative game, so we can all cooperate to play it according to whatever rule set we want, in whether it's 1st or 2nd edition or 5th. Like, it doesn't matter. People do whatever they want.
Well, I think, it's people are going to call it 545 and I think it would be a reasonable thing for them to assume that, because it's got so many things that are the same name. So the equivalent of Magic the Gathering is that, okay, I had Swords of the Plowshare from 1997, and now they came out with another Sword of Plowshare, exact same name, kind of does the same thing, but it has a few tweaks. So which one is the real Swords of Plowshare? Well, given how Magic the Gathering works, they only support the last 3 releases or something, and all the tournaments and online stuff. So that becomes the Swords of Plowshare, even though functionally the old one would work with the new stuff. If you have an old deck, a 1993 deck with Time Twister, Ancestral Recall, and all the dual lands, and Black Lotus, these newer decks are going to be hard pressed to compete against that. That's why they banned the cards.
What to say? They're banned.
Right.
Yeah.
But so they don't ban cards so much. It's saying, all right, we're not going to use that release because it's 4 releases ago. So it doesn't matter if they work perfectly well, you just can't use it. They're banned effectively. And
but that's interesting, because that keeps you constantly having to buy.
That's right. It's a treadmill system.
Yeah. If you want to participate in our tournaments, you must have the most recent card. Doesn't matter. And here's the other thing too, that has to hurt the secondary market, because I remember I had some valuable beta cards. I made some decent money back in the day. But if all those cards are constantly going to be auto banned after, I don't know, 2 years or whatever it is of play, then the secondary market for those cards has certainly shrunk, because they're no longer like, oh, I can use them forever. No, you can't, man.
Well, here, the equivalent in the RPG world, the only way they have leverage is not supported in D&D Beyond, which is the option they have now. And then later on, if they get the BTT up and running, they have the option of saying, no, it's whatever we have for 2027. That's the stuff you can pick with the character builder.
Oh, I'm sure.
But that's not. But that's going to go over like a lead balloon, in my opinion.
But they've already shown their intentions with Magic the Gathering. Now, there are articles.
They also gave a clue with D&D Beyond this week.
Oh, with the revision that they announced?
They're good. No. They announced it as they were doing it. That's my understanding, right? I'm not even involved in
Well,
Beyond anymore. But
no, my understanding is the change log got released, and it's basically like, hey, if you like your 2014 spells, you kind of need you're gonna have to save them as your own unique
custom.
campaign because everything is going to be the new 2024 version of it. So they've rewritten, I guess, whether it's only semantics or spell effects, all the spells have been revised, or nearly all, and that's going into effect. And then magic items are going to have that.
Now that is the rumor that they're going into effect now.
They're going to affect. The rumor is the day of the early release of the Player's Handbook, which is what, September 6th, around then. It's when the Player's Handbook goes live for those that pre-ordered on D&D Beyond. So, by the way, figure that one out, folks. You didn't even buy the 2024 books, okay? You don't have the 2024 Player's Handbook. However, all those changes in the Player's Handbook as goes towards spells will be reflected on your D&D Beyond character sheet.
Now,
Whether you're
I'm
playing
that's
24
going to be. I have to see that to believe that because I looked at. I have access because I bought some things on discount. So I have a D&D Beyond, not a subscription, but a
right.
D&D Beyond account with paid content. And what I've noticed playing around with it is the everything's labeled 2014. So
But
I'm not sure so I think it's just right now my feeling there's a lot of clickbait going on. So when come September 16, if they're technically not able to support two different rule sets for the spells, then yeah, that's I will call bullshit on them. But right now it looks like they're set up for it.
Well, again, the articles that I have read is that, and it's weird because WotC is also saying there will be a mechanism in. But they go over this whole thing of, oh, you're going to be able to use your old feats, you're going to be able to use your old skills, and they go through this whole listing of what will be available as like a 2014 2024 thing, but they didn't mention one thing in that quote. And you know what that was? Spells was the one thing they didn't come out and specify wasn't going, that they were keeping both versions. That stuck out to me. Again, when it comes to WotC, I always assume the worst because they are.
I assume maliciousness.
Well, I assume the worst from everybody until proven otherwise. Until I see the primary source.
Right. Well, and that's the whole thing too, right? It's to WotC's advantage to force you into 2024. It's not to their advantage to support two rule sets on their official. Listen, you want to play Adventurers League, you're going to have to be doing 2024, right? You're not going to be able to do Adventurers League with your 2014 rule books because they won't. They all the rules are going to be referenced going to be 2024. That transition period.
Hold on, it's not as cut and dried as that, Eric. It's because the reason is, there is such a thing. They do consider goodwill, and so, I mean, if they would do the evil thing that you're saying, if it's like for example, they release support for both, and their sales of 2024 is lackluster or tanks even, okay, after the initial birth. And then I have seen situations, mostly in the software world, where they just depreciate support for the older thing until it becomes all but useless, while the newer thing is the only thing available. But that's usually accompanied by other issues and stuff. So again, it's when it comes to September 8th, I would say I'm wrong. on our first show, if that turns out to be the case. But I'm looking at it. It updated the website, and let's see. I will share my screen.
All right, one sec.
Hold on, I gotta share. Okay, so this is a character sheet, a first level character sheet I have, and it said update features and traits, and all these page references here. It changed slightly, so there was an update, but all these page references are still
Mhm.
valid. I
But
got the book. I'm checking it. They're still
Rob,
valid.
the date for this is all. By the way, we got Bad Mike coming in. The date for all that stuff is supposedly whenever the early release for the D&D Beyond and the Player's Handbook is, which I think it's something like the 6th or so. That's when these changes are taking effect. Okay, that's
All
what.
right. Well, we'll see the 6th. I will log in on here, and what our next show is.
If nothing else, I would assume that the default is going to be D&D. Even if somehow they allow both rules to be valid at the same time, I would assume that it's not going to be in the same campaign. So if you're running a 2014 campaign and you save your campaign as a GM, your players can still have access to 2014. But unless you make a point of saving that, they're going to override it within 2024.
Well, no, that's not how campaigns work on D&D Beyond.
I don't. I've never run one.
You only have access to the content. You only have access to the content that paid for. So if you didn't pay for the 2024, it's your campaign. And I got campaigns right here.
Uh,
I got one that I participated in, and this one, and this is my own. And it goes. My players only have access to the things that I bought. That's what this content. I believe that's a content measurement. Yeah. So this is what you can share.
right, but Rob, the default D&D Beyond right now defaults to 2014 rules. What they're
Technically, D&D Beyond defaults to the basic rules that they publish on the Wizards of the Coast.
I understand that, but what they're saying now is it's going to default to, I guess, an unpublished 2024 basic rules, because
Sure.
that is what. So, and character, they're already saying people are going to have character sheets changed because spells are not going to link to the same spell description that they were used to, because it will no longer be linking to the 2014. It'll be linking to 2024.
I want your guys'
That
opinion on
could
something.
be, but as you can see here, I have it. This is new. It specifically put a parentheses around DMG Monster Manual. So if you've been relying on the basic rules, sure, they're gonna. Okay, I believe that if they ditch the 2014 basic rules and just the PDF is still available, but it's not on D&D Beyond, I totally back that. But if you bought the DMG, the Monster Manual, and the Player's Handbook, plus any other content, it's going to be what it is. That's not going to change. There's not. I can't see anything in the interface that they're going to fuck with that.
So this is just what I was when Eric posted this the other day. How much ill will could have been avoided? Because we said this at the time. Everybody talked about this. What was the point of avoiding calling this 5.5 or 6.0? Because at this point, they've already burned through a lot of goodwill anyway. You might as well just say this is a new edition. You're gonna have to buy brand new books, which it turns out, you're going to have to buy brand new books anyway, right? To play the new game.
Well, until Jeremy Crawford
what the fuck?
writes his memoirs, we won't know. But if I had a sneaking suspicion, there's something that Jeremy Crawford and the team doesn't like about the transition. There's something, not the D20 glut. I'm not. They probably don't give a shit about that. but something happened with the transition from 3.0 to 3.5 that they're trying to avoid.
Oh,
Making money.
I know what it is, and I think it's fairly obvious. Is that you had people that were resistant to move to 3.5 because why am I going to invest in all these new books? They're calling it a new game. It's a new game. I don't want to be forced to it. Now they're telling you that you can use all your old material, and they're very clear about this. It's your old adventures. You can use all your old adventures with the new rules. It's 100% compatible. What's not compatible, and they have said this numerous times, is that the core books are not compatible with the core books. They've flat out said you can't use the player's handbook from 2014 with the DMG from 2024. You can't do it at the same table. You got to be which is stupid since they're spreading the release out over 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, that is bullshit, because from the excerpts I see, in terms of system design. Now let's put it this way: the 2014 fighter is not going to play out the same, 100% the same as 2024 fighter. But I think those of us, since most of you guys here listening to this are OSR, and maybe, hopefully, most of you are familiar with Flail Snail, like everybody knows that an AD&D 1E fighter doesn't play the same way as a BX fighter, okay? Even though, there's some overlap. So and I don't think the difference is going to be as dramatic as an AD&D 1E fighter versus a BX fighter. There is going to be a difference, especially at the higher levels when the changes in the order of the class ability, it's going to mount up. But I mean, if you're a bean counter counting DPS and buffs for your party, sure, you're gonna get bent out of shape.
But Rob, should they have done this? I mean, is this?
No.
I mean, Greg, should they have done this?
We keep looking for some kind of a business, like we keep trying to apply rationality to it. If they thought that way, if their goal was actually making the most amount of money, they would have released D&D Tactics instead of 4E and supported both. They never would have lost everybody to Pathfinder. If they wanted to do things like really be successful, they would invest in social media presence, in marketing that would improve. They would not attack their own. They attack their own people like an autoimmune disease.
Whatever's
going on with all of them, they've attacked the old people. Anybody who wants to stick with the old game, whether you're talking about people who didn't want to move over to second edition or people who don't want to move to this, they attack them like an autoimmune response rather than support those people. It doesn't make sense.
It makes sense because look at Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu has gone through 7 rules iterations since 1980-81. You don't see people on Call of Cthulhu boards going, man, those people that are still playing 3rd edition are idiots, or 4th edition. I mean, in all, really, 1st through 3rd were pretty much the same, then 4th through 5th or 6th were pretty much the same. But you don't see that kind of just like, yeah. I mean, they don't make stuff for 7th edition or for earlier editions anymore. You're supposed to use the newest rules, but nobody is saying, hey, if you want to play, original Call of Cthulhu, go ahead. It really is not as good a game as the newest one, but they don't attack their audience. Nobody gets attacked for playing an older version of Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, but
the mechanics are quite different.
I don't see them attacking their audience here with the marketing. If anything, that's why they keep stressing over and over again the compatibility. The only thing they said that wasn't compatible is one player shows up with a set of 2024 books while the rest of the players are still using 2014. So but they didn't seem to make a big of a deal as they did with the transition to 3.0.
They haven't yet. Yeah.
All we can go by is what they actually have
right
done.
Now they're in the 3.5 phase where they're trying to convince people to use 3.5, and then when this doesn't work, then they will try to do a new 4E or whatever their 6E version is, and then they will break it out at what the way they did for 30. You know, they don't have a system. They don't have an outlook of we're going to create multiple branches on this tree. They keep chopping off every branch that grows on the tree except for the one that they want to cultivate. And then they're like, why does this tree look like a deformed mutation? Because they just keep chopping off every tree, every branch that tries to grow, they chop it off. And then they're like, why isn't this tree being successful? Like, they're idiots. There's just no way to couch it. Like, we keep looking for like what's their master plan, like they're some geniuses or something. Yeah. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
The first thing I would have said when the fifth, no, that's what I said. The first thing I would have said when 50th anniversary is running around, and Eric and I did say this, I'm talking correct many times, is why on earth wouldn't you just use this incredible marketing opportunity? Here you have a niche hobby game that is reaching 50 years old, that is arguably as popular as it's ever been. Just go ahead and cut the cord, release a new edition, say it's going to be very similar to 5e, but there's going to be differences. You're going to want to play this. I just think a lot of the goodwill they lost wouldn't have been lost because people are they can accept the fact when you tell them, look, we're gonna do it. Yes, they're gonna yell like when Pathfinder 1 changed for Pathfinder 2. All Eric and I heard at Gary Con that year was bitching. But now you look around, there's plenty of people playing Pathfinder 2. It's right. It's become somewhat accepted in the community. There's still people that play Pathfinder 1. It's fine. I think you might have gone through a small issue like that where people would have got mad and said, I'm gonna have to buy new books, but they're gonna have to buy new books anyway. It turns out they're gonna have to buy all new books, so that that whole issue was null and void. They were gonna bitch about that anyway. They're always gonna have to buy new books. So I don't understand why not just take advantage of this incredible marketing opportunity and say for the 50th anniversary, we're coming up with the best D&D ever. This is going to be the best one ever, and it's going to be called 6.0, and it's going to be very similar. If you like 5e, you're going to love this because it's very similar, but it's going to be different enough that you're going to need new rule books. Yes. But never fear, I don't get it.
Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing, guys. We hashed this over before, and even though this is news, okay, even though I, had some counterpoints to the news, I'm in agreement that, broadly speaking, Wizard is going to do what's best with Wizard, not what's best for the hobby. So but
they're not even doing what's best for Wizards, Rob. That's my point. They're not.
Yeah, I guess that's the whole
point. This is like a drunk who keeps drinking, and you're like, well, they're just hurting themselves. Yes, but they are hurting themselves. It's not just, oh, well, let them do whatever. They're not making the best choice for themselves. You guys, we've been playing 2E together on Tuesday nights with Joe. But I'm not like a 2E fanatic or anything.
No.
But to me, what makes 2E like almost romantically good is how many diverse settings they invested in. Dark Sun, Al-Qadim, Planescape, Spelljam, just all over the place. There's a reason why you want to play 2E to play in those settings. It's not like they're like, for the 50th anniversary, we're going to be coming out with 4 new settings. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to have all this great stuff. No.
Yeah.
The modules they do release are like North Korea as a role-playing game. Like it's
okay. Well,
it's horrid.
Let's try something that we can do about it. Eric, can you show my screen and post the link? So this is so there's this guy from he says it's Third Kingdom Games here, but he's his website Sage. What is Saber Cards and Games and Cards. Anyway, for a while, Ben, he's been doing an OSR News roundup. And it's not always perfect. I think sometimes he misses a release or two, but it's a pretty good summary. So right now, like for last week, Blue Mountain Books has released a hex crawl on Itch at the base of Blue Mountain, and he gives a little overview. Dark Tales for Dark Time is an OSR bundle on based on Drive Through RPG, and it contained 8 different works by as many authors, some adventure supplement, and let's click on this link and see what it's about. So right there, and $18 for 8 different works. A little pricey, but not if you get eight complete works.
He missed the Chubby Funster release last week.
Oh,
Yeah, that's it. So
Yeah, I agree,
that's
Rob.
why it's
We
aged
should
and
be
perfect.
promo-
So
I
we
promote
need to
this stuff.
promote these guys.
I don't ever talk about buying anything for WotC on my Twitter or my Facebook or any of the other stuff where I make posts. I only focus on old school stuff, promoting stuff like Shadow Dark, Adventure Conquer King 2, my own stuff. Like I don't even mention it.
Yeah,
And
let's see if
and then but I'm saying like they had an opportunity to unify a hobby socially for a 50th anniversary, and in their choice was to firmly kick the hobby in the nads. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and they just keep when you miss one ball, it goes okay. Well, like maybe the guy wasn't paying attention. When they throw 40 strikes and you don't swing, what other conclusion can we draw? They just don't want to be successful. We keep assuming that they want to be successful, and I think that's wrong. I don't think that they want to be successful. Mike, you're muted.
So here's some.
I would disagree with you, 'cause
OSR-related news. The Fight On actually released a new edition, number 15, on Lulu.
Yeah, I got to get that. I have all the earlier issues. That's just a great resource. I'm really interested in seeing it.
So the old Fight On crew is back.
Yeah, great. Greg, I disagree with you that I think they would like to be successful. I don't think they understand how in this industry, because as you remember, there's nobody that is an actual gamer working in management now at WotC. You have a bunch of Microsoft and Amazon employees and Blizzard employees. You have people from other industries that have been told to come in here and do what you did in the other industry. It's not an industry like a lot of other industries. And I think they're figuring that out. I think they're slowly getting kicked in the nads every month, finding out this is not like the video game industry. It's not like comic books. It's not like a lot of other industries out there. It's not like the tabletop game industry. And they're just learning through bricks and falling down and skinning their knees and hitting their head. They just don't. They just can't deal with it.
That's my point. At some point, it stops being mistakes. They've been doing this for 20 years now, 25 years.
They had their ups moment. Why do you think we're in a position to bitch about Wizards today? Because Mike Murrow and crew, which included Jeremy Crossford, but looked like he had supervision. But after the first Mike tried to salvage 4E with 4E's Essential, and when that was a no-go, what did they do? They came up with a new plan for a new edition, and in the meantime, they came out with the really nice reprints, and they did 2E, they did 1E, they did 3E, and they reached out to a lot of people, and then they had in the whole run up to 5E. They made sure the hobby was included. Even though D&D Next didn't turn out to be quite like anything, they didn't really use much out of D&D Next. So I haven't figured that part out.
It was a waste of time.
Yeah. So, but nonetheless, D&D 5e, they still they were laggy on the OGL SRD for 5e, but they came out with the free basic rules right away, quick, and they were still open and friendly with everybody. And their first couple of ventures were weak, and then they started hitting their stride. But and then.
All right, Rob. Tell me one great setting that came out of 5th edition.
Setting?
Yeah, one great setting.
They didn't come out with settings.
Yeah,
because
they're just trying to make money by advancing the rule set rather than expanding their lines of business.
But they came out with some decent adventures, Adventure Path.
Let's stick with an industry you're familiar with. Pieade sports drink. Okay, so you've got one flavor of Pieade, bitter blueberries, right? Okay, and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna. People like bitter blueberry. I'm just gonna produce all bitter blueberry all the time. And then at one point you go, no, wait, I'm gonna discontinue that completely, and I'm only gonna make terrible cherry, and we're just gonna go forward with terrible cherry. All the people who like bitter blueberry, fuck those guys. It's time for you to buy terrible cherry. Okay, that is what they're doing. So you could say, okay, well, yeah, they're trying to
Well,
make
that's what
money.
they're doing now.
They're
That's what they
innovating.
did. That's
Yeah.
what they do with the 4E.
Yeah.
What I'm
They
saying,
just keep
they-
making the
they-
same mistakes. They keep shutting down sport. They could make a Pieade empire, and instead they keep killing off, and they're only offering one flavor of Pieade at a time. It's stupid.
well, none of that refutes my point that for a while they did the right thing marketing wise with like 5E, and you could argue with 3.0 as well. They you know the
You
original.
can argue that terrible cherry doesn't taste like ass, but that still doesn't mean you shouldn't have terrible cherry and bitter blueberry and yummy yellow, whatever, and have multiple lines. That's my point. Like that's why I'm at a point now. Maybe you guys say I'm black pill, I'm jaded, whatever. They just don't want to succeed. They don't want to succeed. They may be just going through the motions because they're people in a corporation, but they don't want it to succeed in the sense that people who are actually passionate about a product want it to succeed.
I just disagree with you, Greg, because I just don't think nobody doesn't like to make money. I mean, it seems Disney maybe. Disney would be the only company that
what about
want to make money.
There are huge companies now, Mike, that are doing this.
Marvel behind the scenes has fired most of their quote unquote woke producers and directors and writers because they're not Disney. I mean, they're owned by Disney, but they're not Disney, and they're getting Nad kicked every movie that comes out now. They're losing 80 million, 100 million.
But that's what it took.
That's what it took. But the thing is, Disney doesn't care. They'll lose 80 million, whatever our theme park stuff. But no, look at. I think it's one of those cases where you just have people that don't know what they're doing. And I'll point to this. And this is non-political. I'm just pointing to the job this person did. The head of Secret Service was a hire from PepsiCo, who was head of security at PepsiCo, had no real knowledge of Secret Service, never dealt with it. Whatever.
She did. She was part of Jill's Secret Service detail when Biden was VP. But she's
all right, guys, this is touching on current issues.
No. We're not doing it political. I'm just saying.
We're not talking politics.
No. This is politics. Not politics. I'm just saying.
I don't want to talk current issues, even peripherally.
Rob, listen. We're not talking politics. We're talking
about hiring people from the wrong industry.
You can pull up examples. We can pull up examples.
I can pull up a better example than that, Rob. That was just the one that popped to mind because just somebody that was obviously not qualified for the job they did, and you see that all the time in a lot of other different industries. And look at, I'm trying to think of something that doesn't touch on politics. I guess the Bud Light lady, the lady that did the Bud Light things. She thought she was, hey, I'm gonna diversify our audience here, and said she lost $100 billion by screwing up the brand. She didn't understand the brand. She didn't understand Bud Light is drank by frat boys and good old boys, whatever. Nobody cares who the influencers are, the streamers. They don't care about that, and that's the whole thing. Is when you get people out of their place that they're comfortable in, and they try to move. And this is exactly what's happened with WotC, and that's because they're hiring people from outside the company who have no knowledge. Look, you could work. I don't care how long you've worked at Amazon or Microsoft. You don't know the RPG world. You just don't. The most you might know.
Right, here's a non-political example. Here's a non-political example: SpaceX versus Blue Origin. Okay, so in the space industry, both of them kind of started at the same time. But Blue Origin, if any of you followed it all, is lagging behind SpaceX by a country mile, by a lot. And the reason why is that not that Basil isn't, Basil has a lot of iron in his fire, and he's not as hands-on as Musk is with SpaceX. But the main thing is that Basil hired traditional space executive, and
Right.
Musk, well, he's Musk, but he also hired people who knew what they were doing with the space. Shotwell. Her name is Shotwell, and as a result, for a better part of the decade, first, Blue Origin did squat other than launch their suborbitable, and finally Bezos woke up, got rid of the guy he hired in a different team, and now they're getting ready to launch. Finally, getting
Yeah.
ready to launch their
Well,
rocket.
that's a good example, and I would tell Greg with that, Bezos did not want to make money. He just made a terrible hiring move. He just hired somebody that didn't know what they're doing, and then he doubled down. Look, I don't think the jury.
Blue Origin for Musk, SpaceX for Musk, and Blue Origin for Bezos were our passion product. So any the outcome of the management they hire is solely on them for either hiring the right people or the wrong people.
I'll give you an example from the sports world, and this is one that I've followed closely for the past 30 years. Is Jerry Jones, who owns the Cowboys, he has one of the most expensive franchises in sports history, but his team hasn't been to a meaningful playoff game in 30 years. He's an absolutely horrendous identifier of talent. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he's also the general manager, which, by the way, of all teams in the NFL, he's the only person that does that. Everybody else hires a general manager. He's not equipped to be a general manager. He never has been. They've gone through their longest losing streak in the history of the franchise, 30 years without a Super Bowl, because he has no clue what's going on. He just doesn't have a clue. I think he wants to win. I think he's obviously.
I apologize, Mike. I'm hard of hearing, and I actually missed the team measure. What's the team you're talking? Huh?
Oh, the Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys.
Okay,
because I'm a fan. I'm familiar with them, and they just. So I think Jerry Jones doesn't not want to win. He just doesn't have the skills necessary to make a team good enough to win. And I think absolutely that's what's happening with Watsy right now.
So I'm going to try to get through this tongue twister here, Mike. But are you saying that Chris Cox sucks, or that the person who hired Chris Cox sucks?
Can I just say both? Because look, obviously that he was the wrong person to choose for this, and obviously he's doubling down on the mistakes he's making. But this is all. I mean, Eric and I, we talked about this a lot when Ray Winninger was fired late 2022, and we even mentioned, oh wow, they're getting rid of all the, and then of course they had the big purge at the end of that year to get rid of all of their 2023, getting rid of all their gaming people. And this is the effect you see when you get rid of gaming people and don't replace them with other gaming people. When you replace them with people that you think you can just slide this person in. We could just slide in somebody who worked for Amazon that was who was Williams, the president. Oh, she's great because she's had a microtransaction.
It's worse than that. So finally, a few years ago, Hasbro finally started bragging about Dungeons and Dragons in their shareholder reports. And and essentially what we're saying, what's happened, not what we're saying, what we're seeing, is they fired the team that brought Dungeons and Dragons to its biggest height, exceeding the fad years of the early 80s, to its highest height ever. And what do? They fire them all.
Yeah.
Well, rather than let them make the next, to keep that momentum going. No, they fired them, hired a new team, and now we are where we are.
Well, see, Rob, now here's the interesting question then. We don't know if Cynthia Williams was fired or if she decided, I know where this is going.
That is true.
It's not going to be a successful, I'm going to leave while I'm on top. Like a lot of sports players do, right? Like they go, I had a good season. Holy shit, I'm 38 and I'm still playing good. Let me leave at the top of my game. So that's what people remember me for. Now, obviously, Stevie
but Cynthia Williams wasn't there in the mid 2010s.
Yeah, but she is the one that was talking about bringing Watsy to $1 billion company. The people that brought up WotC before were all gamers. They didn't follow the corporate structure. These were people. Listen, what WotC wanted was people that were yes men and women. Okay, well, I should say Hasbro wanted.
Well, remember,
You
Eric,
had
they
Ray
hired,
Winninger.
they hired her because she was head of microtransactions
Yeah.
at Microsoft. So
she
they
was, for context, she
What
was
was her-
hired in 2022. So she was hired after the boom happened.
right.
Right,
So
but they were already looking at monetizing
whoever
the
was
brand.
managing the 2014 to 2022,
well,
that's the person. That is, he was the
Winninger.
leader, or she was the leader that propelled D&D to the greatest height.
Well, that
Yeah.
was Ray Winninger for the most part, and Ray probably brought it as far as he could bring it as a gamer at heart. WotC did not want it to be where it was. They were talking $1 billion property.
Yeah,
And
remember the big
That's the whole- that was the
Sarah
pitch.
Hillis meeting. We're undervalued. This is under monetized brand. It should be, what was it, 10 times what we're making now. It's absolutely under monetized brand.
Success is a matter of perspective. And for us as gamers, we're like, holy shit, D&D is so popular. Everybody's playing it. Look at all this stuff. And what do? They're, well, yeah, but Ray, what are you gonna do to make this game bring us more money? Well, I'll produce more games. Wrong answer. The right answer was microtransactions and subscriptions and fees and getting us into the computer market. He didn't have the vision. All right. He brought it to a great level. And for us as gamers, that's awesome. But for Hasbro, he only did half the job.
But even at the time, Eric, people were saying they're nuts, that they don't understand this brand. You can't, because they can't. They were basing their stats on the fact that during COVID, the game picked up X amount more gamers. And so if you extrapolate that out, there is this gigantically millions of untapped gamers out there that would love to play D&D if they had the chance, which is a false assumption, because it turns out the COVID boom was because of the COVID boom. It was because people were stuck at home, nothing to do, and they were playing games online.
There you go, right? Games online. So they saw everybody's playing this VTT. We need our own VTT. Why? Same thing with the OGL. Why are we allowing other companies to publish our material and make money off when it should be ours? Why are we letting other people supply the VTT when that money could be ours? Imagine how much more profit we would make, because they were assuming those 2020 numbers were going to last forever.
Yeah.
And that is where, their visions well exceeded their ability to produce. And I think that's why we're going to, 2025, I think it's going to be a lean year for Wizards. Because,
Greg, I want to ask you something, Greg. So why are you stuck on the fact that they're evil, not stupid? Why can't you just accept the fact they're just really stupid? I mean, is there something that I don't see that, I mean, seriously, I'm really interested.
It's the same problem for ever since Wizards of the Coast took over the company. Is that it's not like they make great decisions, they make bad decisions based on who it is that they when someone consistently makes the wrong decision every time, like the way Disney does, you get to a point where you're just like, they just don't. The goal that they have is not what we're assuming their goal is, because if it was, they would be sometimes hitting the mark. What we might perceive as in 5e was very successful in the sense of making, helping gamers, that it wasn't as profitable for them. That's why they were complaining. They didn't achieve their own goal when we're pointing at them being the most successful. So at no point is us saying you're doing a good job and them making a lot of money on the same page. That's why I'm saying there's a disconnect. Well, whatever their goal is, it's not
I'll give you Disney,
be successful in our
Disney
way we
has,
envision it.
Disney has come straight out and they say, we don't care if we lose $100 million a movie. It's about the message. They've said that. They've straight out said, we don't care. And then look, Snow White is going to lose a fucking $500 million. It's terrible. The trailer is panned. It looks awful. It's just going to be awful. They don't care anymore. That Disney doesn't care. I don't think that WotC doesn't care. I mean, yeah, I think they care. I think they care. I think they try to do what people maybe think they should do, and they don't really know what people really want. I just think they've, but yeah, Disney doesn't care anymore. I mean, Disney will keep.
The thing is, though, it doesn't matter whether you think you're evil or you think they're stupid. They're one outfit, and one outfit can only have one vision. And
that is
so,
totally
and they're
wrong.
always
You just said that what one outfit can have many visions,
which is why they fail.
It's definitely the reason they failed is because they only had one vision, Rob. That you can totally be a Paramount Pictures that releases Titanic and True Lies.
All right. Hold on, Greg.
You can reach in every
vision.
direction.
I understand vision is a buzzword in the corporate world. Let's just put it this way: they can only have one plan, and by one plan, yes, you could have a plan to have many visions, but that's not really. I'm not the science. My main point isn't the fact they're one outfit. They can have one plan, and then the moment they get somebody else in charge, they're going to have a different plan. So it's always going to be ping-ponging.
But this is only true because they're a monopoly.
All right,
they're not a monopoly. They're just the largest dude, and they're commanding our
effectively a monopoly.
They control well over 50% of the gaming market, probably more. The only ways we can judge how much of a percent they control is by looking at the numbers that sometimes the VTT show us. And by the way, Roll20 hasn't released an OR report to give you those numbers in over 2 years, I think. So
yeah, I'm sure Wizards of the Coast bitched at them, and they don't want to release those reports anymore.
It's quite possible. But now
here's the thing, though. They don't have control because the technology and the economy of our current time doesn't allow any company. They have 50% of the market. I'm not disputing that, but it doesn't give them control because they can't. There's no way to have control over the way the economy and the market is currently situated.
Well, but their stuff is going to overwhelmingly be in the hobby stores. They're going to get more shelf space than likely, like in places. If you can find a bookstore, well, I know I'm talking about things long in the past. Good luck. You're going to see overwhelmingly WotC stuff, probably followed by Paizo, and then bits and pieces here and there.
But the bookshelf isn't the game anymore.
Well,
it's part of the game, but it isn't the game the way it was in the 1990s.
No, but if you're talking digital, they want to control that whole digital world. The
digital is even worse about leveraging and control.
Well,
people can switch VTTs on a dime.
I know, but that's pretty much why they want their own VTT. If they don't have 50% of the VTT market by this time next year, they failed. That's going to be the watch. And by the way, as an observation, the last in-house setting for D&D that was produced by the company was under TSR. Eberron was a contest. It wasn't produced.
Oh, I thought Eberron was WotC, but I get
no, it was a contest. Yeah, Rich Baker won the contest. It was. Yeah.
I knew that he won the contest. I just thought it was under.
It was under WotC, but it wasn't an in-house.
It wasn't in-house.
Okay. I was saying they published.
WotC has not published an in-house created setting ever, unless maybe you want to consider the Magic the Gathering stuff that they're trying to cross over to D&D. But that tells you many things. Listen, TSR, they were publishing their settings because even though they were in competition with themselves, more stuff meant more material. You found your different niches of players for this, for that. WotC is a bit more entitled. Okay, they figure we're number one. We deserve your money. We will give you a product, whether it's good or bad. If you don't spend money on it, we're going to call you names or talk about you because you're upset because it's about baristas, and or we recycled Spelljammer and we blamed people who didn't put in lore for lore that we no longer approve of. That's what they do because they're not and even their creative inside is freelancers for the most part. You know, these are people that the old TSR, for all of its faults, had an in-house creative staff. There was turnover on it, but it was an in-house salaried staff. The people at WotC are overwhelmingly managers. If you look at the numbers, not just the people who got fired, but the people that they're hiring. When a corporate structure is that many bosses and those few workers, it's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. You know, I've worked on a job where different divisions had way too many bosses and not enough Indians to do the work, and
You would have been
yeah.
fired for using that word, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah, you're too old, Eric. You don't understand how the world. Well, I look at this, and this has become my new bellwether for whether or not somebody knows they're fucking up. Because if you notice now, when a movie does terrible at the box office, let's just say the all female Ghostbusters that came out a few years ago. When it just gets terrible audience ratings, what's the first thing they say? Well, we're being brigaded by nasty, ugly internet trolls who want us to fail, and that's become the watchword, right? Of
Yeah.
we didn't do anything wrong, and so every movie now you see when it underperforms, somebody associated with the movie inevitably goes online and says it's because of the trolls. They brigaded us, and they went on to Rotten Tomatoes, this and that.
That's called fan baiting,
Nowadays,
by the way.
yeah. Well, by the way, it's happening now in the gaming industry, is because when they start blaming, well, it's the OGL. When the OGL thing happened, I knew right away the fan baiting was starting, and they were going to say, "Look, we're failures because you guys have made us failures, not because of us. It has nothing to do with us. It's you." And that's that is the mark of a bankrupt organization, a bankrupt company, a bankrupt genre. When you have to start blaming the fans for why you have failed. And I'm seeing it more and more now, but that's really easy to spot. When you start spotting that, start looking. That's just a desperation move. It's an absolutely desperation move. Look, every Star Wars series that fails now, it's because the fans are mean and they're evil and they're ugly and they're just terrible people. I mean, nobody sits back and says, "Oh, the Acolyte was just absolute fucking straight ass garbage." They go, "No, it was great. All you fans just didn't like it because you're terrible people." I think we're going to start seeing that with look, unless this is a home run for WotC, as Eric said, unless this VTT is a home run for WotC, I think you're going to see that. I think they're going to start blaming the fans and say, "Oh, you guys haven't bought into our great vision here. You guys aren't. What's wrong with you guys?"
Aside from pissing all of us off, what does it matter? I mean, there's only one.
It only matters again because they're a
threat.
monopoly. That's why we are even talking about it, Rob. If this
They're
was
not a monopoly. They're not a
Well,
monopoly.
Rob, if they're not a monopoly, then they are certainly the rising tide that will lift all ships, and it will be the shrinking tide.
Sure, the shrinking tide.
That will shrink the market. See,
Are they?
Rob,
Are they really the
Rob,
rising
do you
tide that
know
lifts all
anyone?
ships?
I don't think you know a single person on this planet who is going, I mean, I just cannot wait to get these 2024 WotC rules. Do you know anyone?
It's not my point,
No,
Greg.
but yeah,
I'm saying,
in
what
order
does
to
it
be
matter
great,
what Wizards does or doesn't do to us?
Rob, it matters because the OSR grew as the 5e grew. I would guess that if 5e starts to falter, there'll be less people coming to gaming in general, and then the OSR falters too. I like to see a healthy gaming community and in a gaming market, and for that to happen, I'd like to see WotC be successful for good products, not for schlop.
Well,
I do
here's
think
my
we're all going to be
suggestion.
profiting
Instead of
from it being terrible, though.
instead of worrying about the emperor who has no clothes, we take responsibility for ourselves and attempt to grow what we like on its own merits. I mean,
I'm
we
not
go
picking
out
on
and we
you
go
here
out
because
and
you
we
have said
promote the
you
efforts of
write
those,
slow, Rob, but I've released 10 products in the past year.
and you're doing your part, Greg. And I'm not,
So, yeah, I've got the torch and I'm burning it.
yes, and you're helping Kelsey with, and you're doing your own stuff, and you're helping Kelsey with Shadow Dart. So you're helping to grow too, your own stuff and her stuff, and that's the kind of stuff we should be focusing on, because
Well-
there's only one currently with the OGF fiasco behind us, and now we have Orc and the Creative Commons and Elf in use by people. So now we have a diversity of stuff, so we're not vulnerable to the OGL. We only have one remaining point of vulnerability that threatens us as for what we do at our level, and that is somebody buying out Roll20. I'm going to say Drive Through RPG, but it's Roll20. They own it, or buying out the OR group because they control Drive Through RPG. So in theory, Hasbro.
That might be a worst case scenario, but there are other ways of publishing it. I think people would move to Amazon or Lulu and just walk on, like move on to other alternatives. That they are there, and I mean, right now it might feel like Rumble versus YouTube in terms of an alternative, but one day, the competitor will rise up. People thought Pepsi was a joke for a long time, and now Pepsi is a major viable second offering. So it's just and to go back to prior, because they offer what people fucking want. There's kids who really want Mountain Dew.
Well, I would
really, really, really want Mountain Dew, and they don't care about brand loyalty to Coca-Cola or anything. Nothing will stop them from getting Mountain Dew, and there's nothing that Wizards of the Coast is putting out that anyone is passionate about getting.
That's true, but I'm saying for us at our level, it doesn't matter what Wizards don't or don't do, because first of all, the way the economy works for us, we're fighting for attention for people where there are hundreds of releases every week on Drive Through RPG and on Lulu and on Amazon. So the work that you have to do to get the sales you have and to get the downloads if you're sharing, it's the same whether Wizards is up or down. We are lost in the air, in the rounding air. So, rather than worrying about what Wizards does, we should be worrying about what we can do. And what we can do is actually quite a bit. And we can talk about situations like what happened with Venger and how, he posted a blog post about his feelings and why he's shutting down publishing. Venger stuff, I'll admit, it was never my cup of tea. And I didn't really care for his marketing style, but I appreciated the fact that he was able to market the way he did, and I appreciated the fact he was able to release the stuff he is, and I am sad that he feels that it's no longer worth it, because it's just there's a group of people who like his stuff. And
but Rob, he can still publish for those people. I was talking to Eric about this today. The thing is, it's just, look, Avengers world was always a niche. It was always a niche within a niche within a niche. And so you could still be a success publishing to that niche. You're just not going to be able to run Kickstarters. And I honestly, if I had to talk to Venger, I would say, look, you need to get out of the Kickstarter business. The Kickstarter business is not helping you. Either run an Indiegogo or market to your direct audience. You have this direct, super loyal audience. Market to them. You're not getting other people. You're not pulling in the Rob Conleys and the bad mics of the world. You're already marketing to your audience. So go ahead and market to them and increase brand loyalty and give them stuff. And I think that was his problem, was trying to reach out there and the farther beyond, and he just doesn't have that reach.
There's
okay. I
want
to. There's a very specific point. I had a very successful Kickstarter, the best Kickstarter, 15K, with how to make a sandbox. But I planned it like I do all my Kickstarter. I am not I'm not planning to hire a stable of artists. I'm not planning, I really try to manage my resources, focus my resources on editing because that's my really weakest point. And I do all these things so my Kickstarter can come in at $700. And I have a friend, Douglas Cole of Gaming Ballistic. He is stellar. He is talented, and he does these outstanding books with production values. But he needs his Kickstarter to hit a mark
A
that
certain amount. That's what
yeah,
cost
a
basis.
very and Vengers in the Kickstarter that Venger was complaining about. I didn't look up his comic book, so I may be talking out my ass, but I think it was like $2,500 for the comic book. I may be wrong, but it was over $1,000,
Yeah.
and he probably needed that to make the comic book. But see, if I make it to the end where I'm retired and really, really just can't deal with writing anymore, if I got there, it's because I always plan for the modest resources. I make the best I can without needing all of that, because I think the quality of my work speaks for itself, and I try to make it so I don't need all that. And if I get the money for the Kickstarter, then I will start paying for it. I did that. I bought. The reason why I busted my deadline is I went to Fat Goblin Games and said I like a second round of art that I couldn't afford before, and I got it. And but so, and that's the kind of thing I think we need to talk about especially when vendors happen, so we can tell people, hey, okay, you're not getting the sales number as that good as you were because Rothsey has 50% of the market, and because the overall sales of D&D is down, and because not as many people, you're now only getting the 300 people where you used to be getting 500 or 600 people. And but you can work your way around that, because with print on demand and the artists, focusing on Patreon, and some of them have very affordable rates for what the art they offer, and they offer good quality, so you can support them that way. You can do all these little things and bring your project. You don't have to bring in your project at $5,000. You can bring it in for $1,000.
Well, see, but Rob, I'm gonna rely upon one line, pretty much from Wenger, which I think spells it out. The reason why for him it's a failure. He was telling his wife that this is going to get better and better, and this is going to improve. Basically, that this is going to be a viable source of income. And instead of hitting 800, 1,000 or so daily monthly sales on drive-through, his last check was 200 and change. And I think that the work that he puts into this, and I don't know what V does for a regular 9 to 5 job. I don't know. But I would believe from that statement that he felt that he would be able to turn this into his 9 to 5 job, and it's not even justifying the time he spent away from his family doing it. That's how I read it.
Yeah, I agree with you. My response, would use the term cost basis for basically what you're talking about, Rob, in that I personally, the way that I run my business is to keep the overhead costs at as close to zero as possible. I have already hundreds of stock art on my system. I have enormous quantity of public domain imagery that I go out and find from Wikimedia Commons. There's other sources. You could get all kinds of stock art that you can use if you don't have a piece of I could not pay someone to make what looks like a Mesopotamia, Babylon, Akkad, Assyria, some kind of time frame like that, looking ziggurat or something, but I can find a public domain image of that thing, right? So I go out and I try to make sure that everything I'm doing is at as near cost basis of zero as I can. Then doing your own layout, doing your own design, putting it up where it's a PDF only or it's print on demand. You're not, Vinger, I heard him on Diversity and Dragons podcast like 2 days ago saying that he had books in his basement that his wife was upset about him
Us
not being
cows
able
saying
to
that,
sell.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Sorry, I just saw that.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you have to the point where once you release a product, everything you make beyond that is pure profit, pretty much, rather than it being something that you're carrying as a load to undo. Like, you don't want to be a distributor. You don't need to be a distributor anymore. All the distribution is print on demand PDF. You don't need to take on that burden. And so when I release something, it becomes just pure profit going forward. It doesn't hurt me. And so, like, I went out, Dean Spencer is a fantastic artist on Drive Through RPG, and he had a sale of 25% off on some stuff. And I bought another, I mean, it sounds cavalier to say, I bought like another 150 images from him, but they were only like $4, and I had the money. Yeah, I had the money already on hand. So now that goes into setting it back to zero. So when I release something in the future, that cost has been paid already way back behind. I'm not worried about selling them or moving units.
I support the Forge in the same way, Greg, and I have a
I have a huge
stock
of Forge.
Huge stock of beautiful landscape art to use, and because I like to do the hex crawl settings the most out of all the products I like to write, and that's a huge boon for me. And for me, I feel I admit around 2014, when the OSR was finally hitting its stride, and we had the first big, like you guys at Fraud God Games, really make a lot of decent sales. I was getting a little jealous, but I sat down with myself, and I was plugged in through the blog and knowing what it took for Fraud God Games to do what they do, what it took for where was the world without
Kevin
numbers?
Crawford?
Yeah, Kevin Crawford. What it took to him to do what he did. And I realized, I got a budget. If I stick to that budget and time and money, I'll get stuff out. It just won't be as fast. And you know what? I'll be happy not worrying about what the other guy do. I'll worry about what I can do. And that's how I survived the Judges Guild debacle. I mean, I was making $300 to $500 a month between my stuff and the Judges Guild stuff. And then, when the royalty was paid, I took it down, and I dropped down to $50 a month. And I understand somebody else would be enormously discouraged, but I stuck to my plan. I released the basic rules for the Majestic Fantasy RPG. I finally got my How to Make a Fantasy Sandbox done, and now I'm working to, and I released some, like, those reference cards that I made, and now sales are picking up. Now I'm back up to like $150 a month when it's not like a special month, like when I really, like the last couple months been because of my release. So,
who's the guy that was famous? It's your guys' kind of thing, not mine. So I just don't remember. The guy who he got a bunch of money, and so he set up an office and he hired a secretary. And who was that guy? Nystel?
The Wandering Wizard.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike Nistel.
Yeah. People make bad business decisions.
Yeah.
That's not reflective of whether people can be successful or not. Like I've been very successful with hooking up with the Shadow Dark stuff. I don't I don't think that that's like going to be a perennial thing or whatever. Like you have to look at what is the calculus I make is I can release something, and this is the calculus I'm making literally right now. there's a setting that I released for Ambition and Avarice 2 that's called Terra Invictus. I think it's a fantastic hex crawl. It has over 300 keyed hexes, huge map.
Is that the high level one or a
Yeah,
different
this
one?
very, very deep. Like it's got all these hex descriptions. You can travel around. That's the one, Eric, where you guys went down to the pyramid and fought the mummy.
No,
Yeah,
I
we
Oh,
played
okay.
this.
I remember.
I didn't remember if you were in that game or not, Rob. But yeah, like I did all that, and as successful as I think it is as a product, as a writer, from a layout perspective, all the things that I was actually building skills by making this thing, it wasn't commercially successful. As it has sold as many units as what I have sold of the treasure supplement I released last week for Shadow Dark in 1 week. Okay, so the Shadow Dark stuff is way more successful from a sales perspective. So if I take that product, and this is what I'm doing actively right now, I'm repurposing it into the Shadow Dark layout style. I'm making adjustments to it to fit with Shadow Dark's motif. You know, like it doesn't have all the things that go into Ambition and Avarice, full OSR depth. You know, it doesn't have like diseases is not really a big thing in Shadow Dark. So the places where I'm like, this place, if you travel through this swamp, you're going to get a disease, that gets struck out. You know, replace it with other ideas, fill it up, build it up. And then when I release it for Shadow Dark, I'm taking the creativity and the work and the ideas that I think are good, and I'm putting them in a format that I think people will want to pay money to buy. It
Now,
doesn't do me
one
any
thing,
good
Greg,
for it to not sell. No matter how wonderful I might think it is personally, it doesn't do any good for me. It doesn't help anybody. People aren't using it at their table. It's not being useful as an object.
now there's one good thing about you do a lot of release, and you release far quicker than I do, and the advantage
If you just took methylphenidate, you would be right on top of it, Rob.
We already had a discussion. I'm not going to get it online with the public. Okay. All right. Anyway, whatever it is you're doing, I want to point out there is okay. So in my approach, I have to work at my releases like a craftsman, making sure all the joins fit, but they just don't fit. They beautifully fit, and you know it's a little bit. You don't have to be a perfectionist, but you got to take. I'm aiming to hit, if not a home run, a triple or a double with all my releases. Now with yours, you can kind of be more experimental in that. Okay, so Terra Invictus didn't work, but is it Shadow Rim?
Shadow Rim's been very successful. Yes.
Yeah. So then you come out with Shadow Rim, and that's successful, and then so you can find a lot of different. You can figure out what creative path. I know you love all your projects passionately, but it's when you find the one that people real like, you can expand on that one and know not only you get the satisfaction creatively of working on something that you've created, you get the monetary reward with it as well.
Yeah. I think people also don't take into account persistence and kind of sticking with. I said I would say this to Wenger. I'm not insulting him in any way. Yeah, having the faith in yourself. It's very hard to have faith in yourself to get through a lot of stuff. There's a lot of tasks where you may say, I just can't do this I can't put in the energy and the time or whatever. That's no knock against anybody personally, but getting a product all the way to the finish line is a seriously difficult task.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have real faith in yourself, and that's what I sensed in Wenger's blog post, is that he was losing faith in his own ability to do it. He wasn't happy. He, all these kind of things. I don't mean to speak for him. I'm just saying this is my interpretation, and I think people don't. We have this idea that there's just instant success. You're just going to do it. It's just going to make it. It's going to be like magic, as if Kelsey just jumped out of a goblin's ass and boom, she was successful. No, she had years and years and years and years building that up. Whether you're talking about Macrease or Kelsey or anybody else that's been successful in the independent side of the hobby. Yeah, it takes a long time for them to build up whatever it is that they're doing. And there's that famous guy who made the ice motel in Sweden where people come and stay in this like ice palace. And I remember, I think it was Malcolm Gladwell uses him as an example in some talk. He's like, he didn't start off with that. He had all these other ideas that failed. He went through like 15 different things. And finally he was like, well, what if we make it into a hotel? Oh, now it worked. The idea you're just going to walk off the fresh out of the idea and just bam, just hit the home run. Like, that is not going to happen. You are going to have to really seriously work at it.
But Greg, also sometimes you also look at it and you just realize an idea is not going to work, right? I mean, you can try it, and then you have to admit to yourself, you know what, this is just not going to work. It's just not going to work the way I want it to. I mean,
after your fifth live action remake of an animated film, you might go, people just don't want this.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah.
But
well, I know look at James Mishler.
There's another.
I was going to say James Mishler was a name. Look, James Mishler tried hard to get his thing going. It just didn't work, and for whatever reason. And James Mishler's an intelligent guy. He's a really creative guy. He just couldn't make the online thing work. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, I mean, yeah, James Mishler is a good example, and Venger with Greg. I'm not sure what. I'm not 100%. What you said sounds plausible for Venger, but I'm not 100% sure because in the case of somebody like James Mishler, we know, you and I know, and everybody who's and Mike, anybody who's put a book together that is shareable and publishable, there's an amount of time you have to put into it. You just can't get around it. It's work. You got to put the work in to get it to that point. And so when it's just it's money that you don't need to survive on. It's nice to have the extra money, but you don't need to survive on it. You have to start evaluating if this time I'm putting into it, even these minimal resources I'm putting into it's worth it. I could be kayaking. I could be playing Doom online. I could be doing all these other things with my hobby time. Or in case of Venger, it sounded like a lot of what he's doing with eating into his family time.
Yeah, I do think that too.
That's tough.
And so if it starts hitting your family time, then you have to reevaluate. Like for me, I know I have these limits in my mind. Like I am only going to attend so many conventions per year. Right now, I think it's going to be 2. So I got ShireCon on the hopper. And Don has graciously invited me to WizardCon in Michigan. So that's going to be 2 in the span of the year. And then at some point, I want to make it out to North Texas Con. I just can't say I'm going to be a regular basis, but because it's pricey for me. But definitely when I have a good year, I'm going to set aside that money so I can go finally make it to North Texas.
Rob, if you want to come, whenever you want to come to North Texas, you will be a special guest here. And so we'll catch your hotel room. So just let me know when that year may come.
Now I'm embarrassed because I sound like I'm chiseling for money. And
no, I'm just saying is that you're right. It is expensive for a lot of people, but you're well known enough in the industry where you probably deserve to be a special guest at this point in your life anyway. So just let me know whenever that time may be. And so
I have. It's kind of related to what we talked, Vic, but it was a bit of a seg. So, Bad Mike, you said a very interesting thing to me last time that you can process credit cards, and that's something those of us see. I have a problem in that I can't really sell to my local game store and make a profit. I am going to sell them books, but I'm just going to break even because the discount they need on the cover price is. The shipping, the fact that print on demand costs so much, then you add in the shipping. I can't sell them. The only way I can sell profitably if I make a print run, and I'm not ready to do print runs yet, to handle all that. Mm-hmm. So, but I can buy them for myself and sell them at convention. But to do that, you need to process credit cards, and you're able to do that. So how would those of us who don't know how to process credit cards get into that?
It's just this is, I mean, I don't want to advertise for PayPal, but I use PayPal. There's people that use Venmo and different services. They give you an actual processor card, but the thing is, everything runs through your PayPal account. It's all run through the PayPal account. So, but you're able to take credit cards and from other people, but PayPal does all the hard work. They don't call it PayPal. It's a division of PayPal.
Zettel? Is it Zettel?
Zettel is it? Yeah. And
Good.
so they
Then
do it through
then I'm on the
Zettel.
right track.
It's the same thing. It's basically PayPal running Zettel, but that's what it is. You're able to take, because for a long time, like I would work a convention and I would, of course, just take cash. And it got to where, okay, PayPal exists, and I would just have my iPad open to PayPal and said, well, if you want to pay PayPal, you can just pay me through your PayPal account. And they would put in their information, then clear it out afterwards after they gave me the money. And then PayPal, I guess, started getting wise to the fact people were using PayPal at conventions without, and they, they had no part of that. So that's when they came up with the company. It was called something before Zettel. But now that it's Zettel, that's what it does. It accepts credit card payments and converts that to PayPal. And so it's really all running through PayPal, but it works very smoothly. I never have any problem.
And there's Square and there's Stripe and there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah, it's all kind of the same deal. But that's how you can do. You could add an element to your sales where you don't just have to have the cash there, or say, okay, well, I need you to PayPal me when you get home, or or like I said, have your iPad open to PayPal where they can just PayPal you right there. No, you just run the credit card and it works just like any other.
But you have to buy a device, and that costs like $80.
It's something like that. I don't think it's that much, but it may be around.
I don't
there,
know about that. Yeah, it's. I mean,
it's a one-time.
Well, I went on their website.
Small
They're
expense,
saying $80 for their cheap reader. That
Yeah, I
works
think
with
I've
your
got
phone.
it. Yeah, I've got it. I've got one here. I was going to show what's that.
It looks like a calculator.
Yeah, but mine's smaller. Even mine's like about this big. But yeah, it looks like a calculator. The more you can pay more and get better devices, but if you're just doing small amount of sales, you just need the basic device. You don't need the upscale stuff. I've seen people actually have retail establishments. They use that for all the retail establishment, and they use the higher level of which gives you more discounts. The higher level basically gives you more discounts, but you're paying more. It's for you, Rob. You don't need a higher level. You just need the basic
Right.
machine.
And
That's
so
what you
the way the math works, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what the fees are going to get charged, but it's not going to be drive-through RPG level fees. That's for sure. And so you're going to, for like a $20 book, you might get it, you might get it shipped for you for like $8 per book. Okay. Which is kind of high for selling to a store, but for yourself, once you get it shipped in hand and you take it to the convention and sell them, you're not going to have to pay or drive through RPG that 30 or 35% that they normally get.
Mm-hmm.
So that your customer that you're selling to at the con doesn't have to pay shipping, so you can charge the full price and they still make out compared to buying online.
Right. People are mentioning online, which is true, that they have Shopify and Square also do pretty much the same thing, but I use Zettel because I'm familiar with PayPal. I've had PayPal now for 20 years, and I have a long-standing account there. But yeah, the fees can get you if you have to know what things cost. Like I discovered a few years ago that I couldn't sell anything on eBay under $10. If I was selling, I don't, to this day, I'm not sure how people make a living selling $4 and $5 knickknacks on eBay, because you're charged for listing the item, you're charged for a percentage of the item, and then also you're charged whatever payment service you use. And so these people are literally making $1 for some of their stuff. And I guess if you do volume, it's one thing. But I basically found out years ago it was not worth my time or effort to sell anything under $9.99. That's as cheap as I'll go for anything. And so you'll figure out your price point, Rob. You'll figure out, okay, this is what I need to sell out to make the profit that I am comfortable making.
Well, thanks to Black Plague, I have my toe in the water because I ship them books and they sell it for me at North Texas at not Jim, Gary Con. So they done right by me, and they don't ask for much, and so that's been great. And but if I go to Shire, they're not at ShireCon, so if I want to do it at ShireCon, I have to do it myself.
Yeah. Well, that's what I would definitely do that. Like I said, especially if you already have a PayPal account that you've been running for years anyway. The only issue I ever ran into this was the first year I did it 4 or 5 years ago. I worked at conventions, North Texas. I had such a volume of money go into my PayPal account that they held the money for 30 days, which they're allowed to do because they don't know that you're a scammer or not. Because I had, this month 800, this month 900, this month 400, and this month 3,500. So they basically held my money for a month, which they're allowed to do. That's the only time they ever did it. And after that, it never happened again. So I guess that at that point they figured, okay, this guy's a legit businessman. But that's the one.
Well,
the
jury's
one problem
still out
I've
on
ever
that,
had.
buddy.
We can pretend. But yeah, that's like I said, you'll discover the number that you need to charge to be comfortable with selling your stuff at, and then also you making a profit. Like somebody mentioned on here, well, you could always up the handling and shipping fees. eBay charges you for shipping and handling too. That they consider that part of your profit, and so whatever you charge, they take the whole amount, not just your amount you charge. That's why they try to encourage just jack your amount up and do free shipping, where you're basically tricking the consumer into thinking, oh, I'm getting free shipping, but it's not really any cheaper because they would charge you for shipping also. So that's kind of a trick that eBay runs when you see somebody.
Well, as far as the drive-through works, I shoot for $5 per book on the smaller books, except for Black March, because that's my it's not a loss leader, but it's a line leader. And so I always price Black March as cheap as possible, but the sales still count. But in the bigger books, I try to make about $9 to $10 per book, and that's after Drive-Thru RPG takes their cut. And so every time I do a physical sale, it's like gravy.
I'm sure Greg knows all this stuff too. But when we started North Texas, we started selling. So we first started selling North Texas products like digestive stuff. Doug wasn't worried about making money, and believe me, we didn't make dog doo-doo money on it, because what Doug would do is he would print 100 copies. He would pay the author. So 100 copies, we'd sell them for $10 a piece, so $1,000. But then he'd pay the author $300 to $500. So literally, we're making pretty much no money off of our first digest. And so Doug got tired of doing digest about 7 years in. I said, well, let me do it because you don't care about making money. He was like Watsy. He didn't care about making money anymore. So what I would do is instead of charging $10, we started charging $15. Now we charge, I believe it's $20 for the modules we sell in North Texas. Our cost, I think the last time we had something printed was the B4.5. I think we were charged, our cost was $7 per module. If Gary's here, he can say whether that's true or not. But we charge $25 each. So we're making a profit of a respectable profit, $18 per adventure. That's worth, that's after we paid, the art, we paid Tom for his time and effort. I mean, we've done that. So we just issued our second print run this year. We had a print run of 200 initially. We paid off the whole thing with that print run. So now everything we do after we pay the $7 a module is gravy. It's all gravy now. And so, our second print run of another 200, we're going to make $18 for every one we sell, which is that's
where
a
are you
decent
getting
profit.
your print runs from these days?
We get it printed. Tom we use Tom Wilson's printer, who just absolutely does a great job. And we could really get it printed anywhere, but those guys just do such an amazing job that we've used them for all our. Yeah, they're up in Connecticut. Yeah. They do such an incredible job, but literally you can get it done through any printer will work with you to do that. I know some of the Frog God game stuff is printed in Arizona. Some of the Indiegogo stuff. The big thing is finding a printer that you can trust that is going to do what you want them to do. Because I've heard some horror stories about printers also.
Why aren't you printing in China like so many other people?
So here's the problem with printing in China. So Frog God prints in China, and printing in China is absolutely the way to go if you're doing an expensive hardcover, because those costs in the United States are cost prohibitive to do like a hardback book in the United States. China's rates are much, much, much better. And you really have to print in China. Unless you're Troll Lord Games and you have your own printing company, you have to print in China. The issues we had was, and this first came about with COVID. COVID hit right when we were doing our Lost Lands handbook. Our Lost Lands handbook took like 11 months to arrive because COVID printers shut down. And so then we're sitting here waiting on the boats to start coming again from China. So we were 11 months late on that Kickstarter on the Lost Lands. It wasn't our fault. I mean, people weren't mad at us because everybody else is printing at the same time.
I was about to say, I don't think anybody was mad about that.
No, everybody's printing was delayed. But that's the problem when you deal with China is you're dealing with another country far off and you're talking way, way in the future. If you want stuff like if I want to reprint B2.5, I just get on the phone and call Thomas Printer and they'll have it to me in a week. And I have 200 copies. So that's the difference between dealing with it. But the thing is, my volume is small enough that that's okay. If I was printing a Bard's Gate $100 hardback, no, you couldn't do that cost prohibitively. It's cost prohibitive to do that in the United States. You have to do it in China because the China it's cheap to print in China.
Yeah,
Greg,
Columbia
do you do
Games.
print
John
on
Miller.
demand?
I'm sorry.
I was just saying, Greg, do you do any print on demand, or do you just do PDFs only?
I do tons of print on demand.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I heard all the cuss words and all the misprints you got back from drive-thru.
Almost every single thing that has been effed up in a misprint is my fault. Like I didn't set it. Yeah, I'm always experimenting with Photoshop overlays, making it look a particular way, and sometimes the way that Adobe puts the file together on your computer looks great, and then you send it to the printer and it's not quite working the way that you want to do. You might have to export it from being a PSD file into just a fixed JPEG and then putting that in or stuff like that. Yeah, I've made mistakes. But POD has been very successful for me. I think of it as it's basically just a sale where I'm taking less of a profit margin on it. I usually mark it down by $2 or $3 in terms of price, just to make it more attractive as a print item. But in return for that, people post pictures of it. You get free marketing value out of those sales. So I've had tons of people share images of them getting Shadow Sun, getting Shadow Rem, getting these items. That's very useful for me from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really care about the dollar.
So a few years ago, and I'll just, for the 5 people that are interested in printing that are still listening to us, Frog God, we no longer ship. We don't ship internationally. We do all print on demand internationally. That was because of cost, because the costs rose so much for international shipping. And not only that, we have a policy at Frog God. If something gets lost or torn up, whatever, we replace it. We would have months where we would literally be returning $500 or $600 just out of our pocket because somebody's giant box of stuff had got lost, or the guy kicked it or run over with a mail wagon, and we couldn't afford it. We just couldn't afford it. So by doing it print on demand, we don't have to pay the exorbitant shipping prices. And if they have a problem with it, we just get another copy printed through the POD service, and it works perfectly. We have POD services in every country we ship to, and then they do the printings for us. And we had to do
that's
that.
gotten better?
Oh my God, yes. Much, much better. Well, the PODs, first of all, the PODs are better, but just the fact that we don't have to refund these $500-$600 orders anymore, that's all money that goes back in our pocket now. I mean, we had 1 month where we lost, where we didn't lose it, but two shipments to Canada were lost, and it cost us almost $1,000. I mean, it's a significant amount of money. And
so
we just said we can't do this.
So you have a POD printer in Canada, right?
Yes.
So
and now
you get it. So where do you get the order in from? Your website?
We get the order in normally, and then we put the order into the POD service. The POD service handles it, and every country has one. UK has one. There's one in Italy. There's a clearinghouse for all POD servers, and they have these offices in every country. And so that even helps too, because that way you don't have one central POD place. Like when people first started doing this, there was like one POD printer in the UK, and that POD printer in the UK would send it to everywhere in Europe. And then there was one in Australia or Asia. And so you only had a few POD, but now you have a POD service in every country pretty much. And so they contract out these different POD servers or services. You don't have to worry. But the main thing it helps us is we don't have to worry about lost or damaged packages anymore overseas.
Huh.
And that's been huge. That's been huge.
When you upload your file, it sounds like all these POD printers, you just deal with a handful, and they have all these satellite offices.
Correct. It's like AAA. AAA used to be very inefficient service because AAA used to have their own trucks that go out and help you. And that's why when my wife's car broke down in 1985, she had to wait 8 hours for AAA to send out a truck. Well, now all AAA does is they contract out to local tow companies. So now when I call AAA because I'm too lazy to change a front tire or a flat tire in my driveway, because I am, I'll call AAA. They're there in 5 minutes because they just send a contract and he's just there. And that's kind of how everything's developing now. You don't have AAA realized years ago that it wasn't cost efficient for them to be doing this themselves. It didn't make any sense to, because they were getting bad publicity because people would bitch and say, it took me 8 hours to get my wife was on the side of the road for 8 hours and I'm canceling my service. This is awful. And they were having a horrible time. Now AAA has it's a great service. Because
just curious, how far AAA will tow your car?
It depends on how much you pay for the service. Typical, it's 50 miles. If you pay a little extra, it's 100 miles. And I think there's even a bigger tier than that where they do it even farther than that. So it just depends on
my insurance company went down to 15 miles, and that really sucked.
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, they don't like to tow very far. That's true. We just bought it for our grandson because he and his wife drove from Idaho to visit us in Texas. We bought him AAA because that way, if they had trouble on the road, well, guess what? They had trouble on the road. So they just called AAA and, in the middle of nowhere, in in Nevada or whatever, they had trouble and they had the tow truck come out and tow them and then fix their car. So it's actually a useful service because they've realized that we can just contract out. Well, the same with POD. POD is a useful service now because you don't have to deal with all the issues that you normally have to deal with.
Well, what's one of the companies you deal with and where can they ship to?
Look, I don't have all the Rob. I'm just a 1% shareholder. I'm a nobody. I don't know what's going on here. I work.
All right, never mind.
I'm just a
I will
man.
investigate it and have the answer.
He's just a small-time pizza lawyer. Okay?
Zach Glazer's the guy you need to talk to, Rob, and he would love to hear from you. Zach loves you just like I do. Just email Zach or text him and say, hey, I just want information about this. Matter of fact, he might tell you like Gary does all the time. Mike doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about because Gary does that all the time. He likes to pop onto these chats and say Mike has no clue what he's talking about. So,
well, there's also something I'd like to point out, Mike, that because you're talking about it from a perspective of running a company, right? And that means you have to be paying people working for you, right? So this amount of success that someone would need running a sole proprietorship business in order to make X amount of money for themselves every year is way high because they're going to have all these expenses, all these overhead stuff, and then they're going to pay themselves out of whatever profit they make as a corporation. But if you as an individual can bring everything in-house under you, and then you publish it, you don't have to make 5,000 sales in order for it to be a good year for you. I'm at the point now where I'm moving enough that I can buy nice things that I might want. It's just a supplement to my regular income. But
okay, Greg, but here's an important question. How do you handle the editing? Because you shouldn't edit yourself.
I shouldn't. And yet,
but you do. Okay.
Well, two things to address this spurious comment from this knave over here. One, I'm not saying this to as I work at a job where the stuff I write gets QA'd by people. Okay, so this is not like I'm just talking out my ass. I'm like, my stuff comes back from QA people every day at my real job with very few editing comments back. So I'm very confident in what I put together. A big part of that is I've been doing this for years at my job, and so I've stopped fucking up every time I do it that way. They keep coming back and they go, you keep forgetting to put the periods on the end of the lines in this chart. Every one of the entries in this chart is a sentence, and it needs a period at the end. So then, after having them come back to me with that 2 or 3 times, I got to stop doing this because they keep coming back. So part of my work process at my regular job is getting QA'd like that. So there's that aspect. The second thing is we've got digital tools today that are so much better than anything that's ever existed before in terms of finding your fuck ups, in that you can take I do almost all of my writing actually in InDesign. So I export it out of
Crazy.
yeah, well,
Fucking crazy.
yeah.
I mean, I love InDesign, but I
yeah.
would not write.
Greg,
crap
you
in
can't
InDesign.
you can't find one of your fans that's willing to go over your stuff and point out your obvious errors, because I don't care how great an editor you think you are, you're making mistakes every time. You know you are.
I'm sure. The thing is, I fix those mistakes, and a lot of times I don't release the POD until it's been out for a little while, just in case somebody finds some fuck up.
Wise.
So I have a different situation, you Greg. It doesn't matter how much I work at it, because of this bad boy. What caused this also nailed my language center. So I always need an editor. No matter, even Grammarly, as good as it is.
But even if I did pay somebody to do the editing, I would still be clearing profits.
Oh, I agree. I
I'm just clearing better profits
and
because
Joe
of that.
graciously helped me edit my How to Make a Fantasy Sandbox, which helped a lot, and I greatly appreciate it. And no matter what I could do, I could not persuade him to pay even a nominal amount, although I could more than afford it. But yeah, I have to. I still ran a profit with my Basic Rule for Majestic Fantasy RPG, even after paying a couple $100 for editing service. That was worth it.
And I did want to respond to Spawn. Can you pull up his comment again, Eric?
Which one?
Oh God,
the one that you just clicked through about
Don't
trade-off
give
and
it-
not
yeah.
the trade-off and not releasing POD. Okay, so for me, this is the opposite of a problem. So what I can do is when I release the PDF, I can go onto all of the social media locations where it's going to be talked about, and I can make a whole bunch of posts and get a bunch of attention for that. Then when the POD gets ready, when the proofs are approved and everything's ready, then I can do a second round of marketing without it being spamming to those from the perspective of the person that you're. So Kelsey's Shadow Dark group on Facebook, for instance, I can release a post of, hey, this is available in PDF. And then 4 weeks later, I can release a post that says, hey, this is available in POD. And then I can wait until people get their PODs. And then when they post them on Facebook, I can wait until enough time. Then I can respond to comments, and that will keep it up at the top of the group. So there's a lot of ways you can turn it into a marketing function for you. I don't know that there may be some FOMO loss, but that has not been, in my experience, not been a problem. I can watch the sales go way up right after the POD gets approved. People wanted to get it. It's useful.
So another thing is I opted into drive-through sales for the first time, and it made a difference. For a long time I shied away from it. I just didn't I figured it would sell when it sells, and that's all it is. But the fact it was on sale, even for a nominal amount, made a difference.
I'm sure. Everybody wants a deal.
And I'm still on the top 10 list for Dungeons and Dragons. And I am
You're my
number
hero, Rob.
16 on the OSR, which, folks, I'm pointing that out because that means the OSR is selling hotter than things labeled Dungeons and Dragons on Drive-Thru RPG at the moment.
Yeah, that is an important. I was very interested when you showed that trick by looking at the D&D product category. And ever since you told me that, I've been coding my products in both because I had only been coding them as OSR because I'm honest. But but putting them in the D&D category did
Well, it is a
let
D&D
you
variant,
compare.
so you're not lying.
True.
Yeah, so the OSR, so Dungeons and Dragons, if we use my thing, I am number 9 right now. So there, and the Halls of Arden Vul are number 4, which is definitely
Jeez.
a OSR release. And if I change that to OSR, Arden Vul is number 7, so that means Knave, His Majesty the Worm, Ruthless Heaven, Boundless Fate, Worlds Without Number, Stars with Number, Cities Without Number are selling better than a lot of the D&D release
Well, on this platform.
on this platform.
That's
of course.
another thing to take into account. And I mean, it's just, to me, like, it goes back to what I was saying a second ago. Like, I'm not trying to, I use this phrase with my kid all the time. You don't have to run faster than your friend or the bear. You don't have to run faster than your bear. You just have to run faster than your friend. Right? Like, I'm not trying to beat D&D. I'm just trying to do well enough for me to be happy about it. And I am. Last year, it bought me a fence, which anybody who owns a home knows that is not a minor thing.
I just bought a fence.
A
Yes.
screen door, which turned out to be surprising. Well, let me. My insurance paid for the screen door because it got ripped off in a storm, but there was a $500 deductible, and it paid. My How to Make a Fantasy Sandbox Kickstarter paid for that deductible.
Yeah, so that's where I'm like, for me, it's a matter of paying for things that I might want. I'm going to be going to Greece in a few weeks with my wife, and I'm not worried about the cost basis of that.
Well, it looks like we've been. Looks like Shadow Dark's been good for you, son.
Well, this was planned before a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm saying, my wife is a big traveler, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not going around going, oh, we got to penny pinch on this in order to make, whatever. I'm not worried about it.
So you finally hit your drive-through stash. I remember you commenting about that because you've been on drive-through for a long time, and you had for fairly.
Well, I've been making, and I don't want to turn this into a dick measuring contest, Rob, but I've been.
No, I'm trying to talk up the fact you have. What's
the
other game? What's your other game called? Not Powers and Perils, but
Ambition and Avarice.
Yeah, Ambition and Avarice. Yeah. You had that out for years.
Yeah, that's right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not so egotistical up my own ass to go, no, I want people to buy my core rule book and my whatever. Like, no, I want to take the creativity and stuff that I have and put it in a form that will reach the largest number of people. I don't have a problem with that anymore. A lot of people they have a problem with it. Yeah, they say I don't like Shadow Dark because it has this one rule that I don't like. Well, tough shit, man. Tough shit. Get over it.
Your Ambitions and Avarice game, even if you're not looking for another OSR system, the one really good thing, there's a really good thing about it in it. He has all these lists of stuff like herbs and what's those magical components?
Catalyst. And
Catalyst.
That stuff that has and it just
in
Shadow Dark. is converting those ideas. Oh, because I've already done the work of looking up 200 herbs. Yes.
Right, and you can
I just
repurpose
put
for
it into
another
Strata.
system.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I agree. Yeah,
Well, I'm trying to talk up your own damn game, dude.
I know. I'm a dick.
But he has a lot of supplemental material in there, to support his system, but they're useful for other systems. I have used them for my campaign. So,
Well, the most recent release that I put out, I put together in a pretty short amount of time, because about half of the idea content I already had from Ambition and Avarice is the treasure tables. I had done a ton of work on treasure tables, so I put a lot of that over there. But a lot of it was, taking what in Ambition and Avarice was maybe a 3 or 4 word treasure table entry, and adding more flavor and developing it out more, because Kelsey's style is having more detail about what you're finding in the treasure result. So building that out, but it's very useful to already have stuff that you've already done. There's no way you're gonna be able to like just take one thing and just copy paste it into a new system. There's always going to be at changing and adjusting it to fit whatever the new ideas are in some way. But it also helps you, doing that helps you really appreciate the things that you are good at, the things that you're bad at, trying to fit what you do good. You say, well, this is the thing that I do good. How can I do that? I don't want to spend all my time doing the things that take me a long time and I'm not very productive with. And I want to focus all of my energy on the things that people really like, that I'm producing, that's good, at flows for me. So that's why I think, you've got things that this is what you like to create, and it's easy for you. That's what you should be pushing as a thing. That's what you should be working on. Don't be like, well, I need to make the next fantasy heartbreaker that covers every idea. Like that's, I mean,
the whole reason there's 2 reasons
I meant like the
my
figurative you, not
fantasy.
you specifically, Rob, by the way. Just
I'm not saying you're picking on me, but since we're talking about publishing in general, here's another thing to consider, is that, okay, well, why would I publish my own set of rules? Well, in my case, there were 2 reasons. First of all, when I released my Majestic Waterland, I ran a couple campaigns and I didn't stop evolving them. I still remained compatible with Swords and Wizardry because I wanted to reuse the stuff that Finch and others were using in my own campaign easily, but like the Fraud God people were producing. But the main reason is when the few times I sold my stuff at cons or the game stores, it was so hard because I couldn't get a copy of Swords and Wizardry in. Matt Finch helped, but I would be taking a loss trying to give that book to the stores. So I just eventually wrote my own, and now I have that available, and that makes the effort of selling physical product worthwhile, because now I have a rule set to tell. If somebody wanted a rule set, I can say, here, you can buy this. But for people who already have Swords and Wizardry, here, you don't need to buy my rule set. Just use this, will work with Swords and Wizardry.
Yep. And everybody has like, I want, these are the things that I think are the best, and put it together. But for some people, you don't need to be like, I'm going to write the next D&D. You need to be like, I can write this one adventure. I can write this one. I'm really good at coming up with this kind of resource for GMs. Like that's what you should put your energy into. That's all I'm saying. James is talking about making his own fence. Jesus, man, what a nut. Do you like to suffer, sir?
Are you looking to drop a nut?
Yeah. Is it James Spawn who has the chipmunk squirrel flavor? Yeah.
Squirrel, yeah.
Squirrel themed stuff. Yeah. I couldn't remember exactly.
That is the one, the only James. James has a Kickstarter right now. Was it Hijinks? Halfling Hijinks.
Oh, hijinks, yes. We
So-
need to talk about that sometime. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I do think on the Kickstarter front, doing what Rob has done, doing what a lot of people have done, the Black Lodge Games guys are doing it right now, having a product already written
Oh yeah.
and then putting it together. The BLG guys are using drive-through as a distributor rather than actually printing the books as a imprint. That kind of stuff. You can do it. Just adjust your strategy to match whatever fits your style. Like I don't want to be in charge of managing physical books. I just don't want to do it.
I have the same
Yeah.
thing, and I don't have the physical space to handle it.
Yeah. I no. I mean,
And I don't have the monthly income. Even when I did have the Waterland stuff, I didn't have the monthly income to rent warehouses either. So 2 strikes.
the only thing I could see doing it from, if I ever was going to run a Kickstarter, it would be to create a imprint the way that where it's got 2 layers of the book, like where there's like a shimmering glossy layer and then like a leather layer, and you can see through it. The Basic Expert recently did a book. It's based in Aztec lore, and he had this. I'm trying to look up that he did a Kickstarter for it. I think, yeah, Macahuitl. I don't know how to Macahuitl, and the cover is amazing, double inlay. I'm trying to see if I can find some. A lot of people have posted pictures after the Kickstarter completed. I'll just find an image here and toss it to you, Eric.
While you do that, John Miller said, with corporate RPGs moving to BTT and online only, the TTRPG hobby might be kept alive by indie producers as well as part of the hobby, and like the early days of miniature wargames. Now, my thing is, right now, VTT's off. My feeling on that is VTT's offered as an in addition to regular tabletop role playing, and they're structured in such a way that we can easily flip flop between face to face. There is no reason that we can all go to Joy. We can't go to Joe's house next week if we had the time and the money to fly out there and play a game of AD&D Second E and continue its campaign for that session. However, I have the feeling if the company completely moves to VTT, then they'll start focusing on just what they need for the VTT, and that will turn it into a different hobby, just like the original text-based D&D on the computer back in the 8-bit days.
Yes, that's such a beautiful
Turned it
cover.
into
Oh my god, I love it. Sorry, Rob.
No. Okay, what do you got here?
This is the Basic Experts Aztec Empire setting.
Nice.
I mean, just stunning cover. I mean, I've seen he does on his YouTube channel. He has an unboxing video where he has they'll go through the whole book in his hands right in front of the camera. And that is what I think a Kickstarter would be for me, to pay for something like that. But
now they do have, and you're going to have to build this in your pricing, but they have places where you can ship a print run to, and then give them a list of address, and they'll ship it out for you. Is that right? Have you heard something like that, Bad Mike?
What now? About what?
You can hire.
There are people that will do fulfillment. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point about BackerKit. That's why BackerKit's become so popular right now. People are bypassing Kickstarter, just going straight through BackerKit now, and that's why they don't have to.
But does BackerKit handle the storage of physical products and shipping them out?
I don't know, Rob. Actually, I don't know the answer to that.
I heard of.
I assume they do because if you're not shipping it yourself, they would have to be. So yeah, I would assume that's what's happening.
No, they do not, according to Roll for Combat.
All right.
But I heard Doug Cole of Gaming Ballistic told me there's places where it's it's
There
going
are.
to cost a fee,
Yeah.
but you can drop ship your print run to them, and then you can give them a list of address, and they'll handle shipping them out.
Right.
Wow. Well, I think that we have reached the witching hour. We are at 2 hours and 10 minutes. I got to just throw this out there. Knocking on 50 live viewers, which means this will get a lot of views before it goes totally bad. Thank you. It's been very good adding in Rumble and X. Sorry, Twitter or whatever you want to call it. It just is right now.
X Twitter.
X Twitter.
It's
It's
Twitter.
like-
It is Twitter. I don't
It
care
is-
what he says.
Do
It's Twitter.
you X somebody?
Exactly.
No.
I
I tweet.
couldn't disagree with X more.
I know.
It's a
but-
great platform. I love it as a platform since Elon has made it much better. But I have no idea why anybody thought it would be a good idea to call it X.
Oh, you don't know about Elon's obsession with X? Come on, SpaceX.
Well,
X.
I
He named his
understand
kid
that,
X.
but I mean, it's just
All
not.
right.
It's just not good.
It could be 2 X's. Wouldn't it be twice as good? With 3 X's, but then you'd be banned.
Mm.
3 X's, that'll drive you crazy.
Yeah, that would be Wenger style, or is it Gangman style? I'm sorry, I weird thoughts coming into my head.
Yeah. Don't try to be cool, Eric. When you try to be cool,
Right.
it
Put the
Gangman
drugs
style
down,
is not
Eric.
cool, man. Even that's dated right now, right? Isn't that like 10 years old? I'm not one of the hip kids, folks. I'm just letting you know. I know it
Ain't
says
that the
Frog
truth?
God here, but it doesn't. I'm not. Trust me. It's just a shirt that I pulled out of my my closet today. Folks, again, thank you much. Thank you to Rob. Thank you to Greg. Thank you to Joe for not showing up. That lazy piece of shit.
yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding.
I should dinner with family.
whatever you
Oh,
do, don't subscribe to Joe because
Yeah,
he's in a contest with Eric, and
unsubscribe.
he's just an attention whore, begging
Yes.
for all over the place for attention. Don't give it to him.
Absolutely.
If Joe was on, because Joe has admin rights, so he'd be changing the banner, and it wouldn't be taking you to some horror bundles and drive-through. It'd be going, subscribe to my channel, Joe the
Yeah,
Lawyer.
exactly. Yeah,
He's a whore. He's a whore. Subscribe a whore. But unlike somebody else, he doesn't pay for subs, so I give Joe credit. He might pay for other stuff. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Thank you to Mike for jumping in last moment.
I saw
Very
you guys
cool.
were. I saw it was just going to be Rob and Greg, and I was like, nope. You need a third voice there. Just like the old Nightlines. The old Nightlines always had 3 people because they were afraid if they had 2, they might agree and not argue with each other. So that's why there's always a lame third.
Oh,
person
so we needed
in all
you
those
needed Mike.
1980s. Yeah,
so you're the lame third person, is what you're saying?
absolutely. Yes, I filled in for that. Yes.
And as an inside question, Mike, did you upgrade your internet?
No, I did not. But maybe we didn't get throttled today because we weren't online much today. It will be upgraded by the end of the month because I can't live with.
I was like,
I can't live with throttling.
I mean, Rob lives in the middle of nowhere. He has perfect internet. Mike lives just outside of Dallas, and he does like one of those,
So I upgraded to fiber last year, real quick. I upgraded to fiber, and I thought it was going to be awesome, and it was for a while. But then they informed me this year that oh yeah, by the way, when you go past your data, we're going to throttle your ass. And probably everybody here knows what throttling is, but yes, they deliberately. It's like it usually after 6 or 7 at night, they pretty much shut me down.
We have two providers. We have Armstrong Cable and they keep changing names, but they were shit. They had DSL. They were the DSL provider, and they were shit. But they now leapfrog. We're not going to switch because we're happy with Armstrong, but They now went to fiber, gigabyte fiber, and apparently they're doing much, much better. So competition here has really paid off. And we're in the middle of nowhere, as Eric says. And
Yeah.
now
We'll check that. I give them credit. All right. Well, Mike, thank you. Michael, thank you to your cable company for not throttling you.
Yeah, they haven't throttled me yet tonight, so we'll see what happens later.
It's been a pleasure.
There's always your wife.
No max headroom. Yeah, we can always work on
Oh,
thanks to everybody for joining in. The chat was extremely lively. I apologize for falling behind on occasions. As always, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. Live stream tomorrow night, myself and my wife, Rach. Got some updates. And well, her torn meniscus. It's a bit more, so it's going to be interesting. I'm not teasing, am I? No. Other than that, folks, I'll catch you all later. God bless. Be good.